Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Shannon and I love rocks and gemstones, and rock tumbling is my very favorite hobby. And today I am going to take you through my entire process of tumbling Labradorite. And this is a super tricky stone to polish. It's really gorgeous because it has this flash called labradorescence, and it can be really shiny. But this is a really, really tricky stone to polish. But I'm gonna take you all the way through from rough to all of the stages to this finished, polished end product, and then show you my timeline and the recipe that I used to get these results. So stay tuned for the end where I post those. But Labradorite is an advanced tumble. It's really, really tricky, and I'll give you a few reasons why. Now, if Labradorite is one of those stones that the more you tumble it, the more you aggravate it, the more you are going to aggravate the cleavage in this stone. And so Labradorite has two planes of perfect cleavage. And what cleavage is it's a plane through the stone in which it can easily separate. And Labradorite has two planes of those cleavage, so it tends to be prone to just breaking apart at its cleavage seams. It also is one of the stones that has twinning as well. So that's where two crystals grow through together and forming one unit. And you can see the twinning in this Labradorite with the striations. I picked this one in particular. There you go. So you can see those striations. That's where the twinning is. And this is also a phenomenon that causes that flash in the light, which is called labradorescence. And it's where light reflects off of those intersections of twinning. So you've got two planes of perfect cleavage and you've got twinning in Labradorite. That means there are more surface areas that can get like aggravated and irritated with extensive tumbling, and your end product can look really beaten up and ragged, even though it's been tumbling in finer and finer grits. So with this tumble, I'm using two pieces of equipment. I'm starting off coarse in a rotary tumbler. Then I'm switching over with fine, extra fine, medium, and polish in a vibratory tumbler. I use the Raytech Tumble-Vibe because you want enough aggravation with the grit to smooth down the surface, but the least amount of time in which you do it so that there's less opportunity to create more cracks and crevices in the stone itself. So this is a highly requested video. I've been asked to do Labradorite a lot, so I hope you get a lot out of this video. Let's get started. Let me show you the rough. Today I'm starting something that people have been requesting, Labradorite. And I have done this before on the channel way early on, and the finished product, it was just not great. And that is a common problem with Labradorite, that it goes through the first couple of stages well, and then kind of starts to fracture and crack apart and frost towards the end. This is a difficult tumble. So we're going to go through this really carefully and really mindfully and try to get the best finished product possible. This might involve the vibratory tumbler towards the end. I'll have to wait and see. In fact, I'm going to say I'm positive it will involve that because it's the final stage. It's fine, extra fine, and polish that really beat these stones up, and I think they would just get too much in the rotary. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm just speculating right now. let me get this in the barrel with the coarse grit. I am adding some ceramic media to start because this is a slightly softer stone and I want to keep it from fracturing internally as much as possible. So let's get this started. Since I have this handy and available, let me just show you what the last batch of Labradorite looked like after polish. You could see it did get a shine on it, but there's lots of parts that just look fractured. And yeah. Shined up, but just has a really rough, bruised up look to it, which is a shame because this has some really nice colorful flash in it, but the surface imperfections on Labradorite stand out like a sore thumb. So the trick is to get it as smooth as possible out of fine and extra fine, but even so, like it could start to fall apart in polish. So we'll see how this goes. This was take 1. And I'm hoping that take 2 will be much, much better. Okay, here is the Labradorite after 1 week in course. And oh, wow. Autofocus isn't liking my Labradorite. And there's so much rainbow flash in this. It looks so pretty. I just wish it weren't so finicky in the final stages because it's such a gorgeous stone and it's really hard to polish. My autofocus is having some problems today. I'll try to fix that. But since my original recipe in the rotary didn't work, and I think continuing in the rotary might be too much for it, I'm going to move this over to the Tumble-Vibe. Come on, focus. There. I'm going to move this over to the Tumble-Vibe in medium and finish the process through there. I'm also going to use the sugar method to keep it cushioned, and the sugar method is adding a fair amount of sugar to the grit and liquid in the vibe or the rotary so that it creates a really thick fluid in there and it cushions the stone a lot better. That's what I'm going to try. So I'll let you know the results next week. Let's get this in the Raytech. All right. So I have the Labradorite in the Raytech Tumble-Vibe tumbler barrel here, and I'm going to use the sugar method to cushion the roll of the Labradorite while it works through medium grit. And the instructions say, so 2 teaspoons of medium grit, 4 teaspoons of water. I let these dry, so that's why I'm putting that much water. And then 1 tablespoon of sugar per pound of rocks in the barrel. There's 5 pounds, and so I put in 5 tablespoons. We'll get this running, and I recharge the grit in 12 hours, and in 24 hours, rinse, clean, take a look at them, and then see where they need to go next. This is the Labradorite after 24 hours in medium grit with the sugar mixture. And I've poured it all out and I've let it dry because I really want to take a good look at its surface before moving it on to fine. And, I'm looking for, cracks, crevices, anything that might be amplified when you get to the polish stage, anything that's going to look bad. Now, I'll show you, this is one of the flawed ones from my last batch. You can see it's shiny, but there's so much try to get this focused. Come on. But yeah, there's just so much on there that does not look right. Like every little flaw is magnified. So that's that. And, you know, I let this dry and the surface is looking good on like most of these. And, you know, it could just be the sugar mixture and using the vibratory tumbler. But yeah, you can see how smooth and there's no big cracks or imperfections in there. I mean, there's some that have a few flecks like that one, but for the most part, these look good. So now that I've let them dry, I've looked at exactly how they look coming out of medium grit. Now I'm going to get these back in the Tumble-Vibe with the sugar mixture and fine grit for another 24 hours. The Labradorite has been in fine grit now for a full 24 hours, and I've taken it out and I've dried it off again to look for surface imperfections. And, you know, there are a few cracks, see, and surface imperfections in this. However, it's much better than, say, this. This was from the failed batch. And those surface imperfections have the potential to just magnify later on, but the majority of these are just looking mostly clear. Ooh, look at the blue on that one. That's nice. You know, just minor imperfections. And this is a stone that you don't want to keep tumbling more to smooth out the surface, because then you tend to aggravate it and the cleavage starts to chip and break even more. So that's why I'm using the vibratory tumbler, because it takes less beating in a shorter period of time, and the sugar mixture really slows down the tumbling action, while the vibration of the tumbler allows the grit to do its work. So far that's been working really nicely, and the surface of these look positive. So I'm going to move these on to extra fine for 24 hours and we'll take a look at them again. Here is the Labradorite after 24 hours in extra fine, and I've taken it out. I've washed it really well. I'm drying it just to see what the surface looks like. And, you know, the surface on these isn't flawless. There are some that are better than others, but it's better than this kind of beat up look. This is from the failed batch. But wow, there's some really nice shine and flash and rainbows on this, in this batch of rough. Oh, just washing it off and seeing all of that. Look at that. It was just gorgeous. I mean, oh, here's a piece that's really nice if I can get the light to hit it right. But, So I am going to give this a really good wash and get this in polish with the sugar mixture as well. 5 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons polish. For this, most of this is dry now, so probably about 3 teaspoons of water, and I'll let that run for 24 hours and we'll see how that goes. So wish me luck. So here's a quick peek at the Labradorite before I do my finished product showing of it, but I just wanted to highlight that this batch is infinitely better than the first batch I tried, all in rotary. And while there are still surface imperfections and cracks on these, the number of them has dramatically reduced by using the vibratory tumbler with the sugar mixture and just having it agitated less. Because Labradorite is one of those stones that the more it gets tumbled and agitated, the more any weak points in the stone are going to start to crack and be really noticeable later on. That's just the nature of these stones and its cleavage. So, all in all, really successful. And let me lay all of these out and show you some good views of the finished product. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching my process of tumbling Labradorite. It really is such a gorgeous stone. And if you've been tumbling for a while, I highly recommend that you try it. If you're looking for a challenge, then Labradorite is really it, because it does require some finesse and a little bit of gut feeling to determine how you're going to proceed. But I hope that this video has helped you get a good idea, and this sugar mixture that I incorporate in the vibe really does help. The intent of that is to slow down the speed at which the rocks tumble in the vibratory tumbler, but still allowing for the vibration of the tumbler to let the grit grind against the surface and smooth it out. So thank you so much for joining. If you're a brand new tumbler and you'd like to eventually get to Labradorite, then I do have an online rock tumbling course, Rock Tumbling 101, and I'll put the link to that below. And if you are an experienced tumbler and you'd like to see how I tumble a wide variety of gemstones, then make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single one. Thank you so much, and I will see you again soon.